George and Joyce. I always say I'll go wherever 3 people gather. It is that important for people to understand education and what's going on in education. We have to. I have 5 precious children that I delivered into a world that I thought was fairly safe and secure. I really had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't even have that knowledge after I got on the school board. I have learned since a lot, and I've not been very pleased with what I've been learning. I've been learning that our kids' education has been sacrificed, and I just want everybody to understand that. So I don't work anymore. I went into private practice. I don't do that anymore. I did a lot of things I don't do anymore because I've dedicated my life and my budget, unfortunately, to traveling the state and trying to help people understand what's going on so that we can make the change. If we don't identify what's wrong, we can't fix it. So you must help me. You must help your children and your grandchildren fix it. So let me identify what's going wrong, and you can probably set your own course, or I can help you direct the course to help save our children and their education system. So what I say is that I was just a mom, very, very busy mom, raising my children, interested in what they were doing, staying involved in everything I could, including my church, the schools. But our district kept coming back for more levies. So we failed 4 levies. During that time, I was a no voter, and I put the no sign at the end of my driveway. I just felt like we were paying enough, that my property taxes were approaching 10 grand a year. I thought, gosh, I'm done. I really can't swing anymore. And then I would get these conversations or these sound bites that said, you're just not paying your fair share, you don't care about the kids, and I thought, so I just reproduced myself 5 times. If I didn't care about kids, well, why did I do that? You know? Or you don't understand education. Well, that didn't work. I'm an educator. That just didn't work. I taught in public universities for 10 years, so that didn't work either. So I thought my neighbors needed to have some information. I started doing homework from the auditor's site. I came up with a list of how much our tax dollars were compared to school districts in the area, just to see if we were paying our fair share, because I was being told we weren't. So I was able to identify for my neighbors that we were paying more taxes than almost anybody in Warren County, second only to Mason, a much, much larger school district. So we were paying our fair share on that whole schedule. So I put that in my neighbors' mailboxes, and eventually they called and said, Kelly, why don't you run for school board? I said, gosh, that had never occurred to me. I'm busy, but you know what? Maybe I should. So I ran for the school board. The 2 incumbents ran, and then another person ran. So there was 4 of us for 2 seats. Was it 3 seats? 3 seats. And we were interviewed by the newspaper, which I will not refer to them that way again. Last time you hear that phrase used. But they endorsed the other 3 candidates, essentially telling everybody who not to vote for. And then the union endorsed the other 3 candidates, essentially telling everybody who not to vote for. But that's okay. That's all right, because I got more votes than any of them. So what happened was those 2 kind of agenda-driven entities identified who the conservative was among them. And so that got me more votes. So the night of my party of the election, I had the Dayton Daily call and say congratulations. I said, well, it just goes to tell you that Dayton Daily should start reporting the news and stop trying to make it. And he said, point taken, point taken. So I said, I think you got me votes. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And so they no longer endorse, and neither does our union. I think that was a good decision. Okay, in our community, that's probably the best decision. But anyway, I got on the school board, and you know I'm all by myself because it's rare to have somebody that's a no voter sitting on a school board, because they're typically people who have been pro-levy all the way along, and so they're supported by people inside the district. They're usually promoted by people inside the district to pass that test and get on the school board. So I was very much alone, 4 people who didn't share my views, but that's okay too. I am here tonight to help people understand that if you don't get on the school board, it will not change. And you have to man up or woman up and get on the school board and start helping to make some of this change happen. Because immediately after I got elected to the school board, I was whisked away to a weekend with the professional coach for school board members. And that organization, you all pay taxes for your school board to join. It's called Ohio School Board Association. You pay thousands of dollars right here in Upper Arlington. Your fee, I know, because you have the same number of students we do, is $5,500 a year. And then everything you do is extra beyond that. But they coach your school board members. So immediately after being sworn in, you take a weekend with OSBA. OSPA teaches your school board members lots of important things, like executive session, sunshine law, open records act, that everything you do can be at least subpoenaed, but also it's a public record, so you may have to turn over everything you do, be careful. So a lot of that was really good information. But also intertwined in the weekend was how to be a good school board member. And how you be a good school board member is you become a cheerleader for your district. You don't air dirty laundry. You don't ever take anybody by surprise at a public meeting. You be a united front. You must go around and be together, all five. And you must not walk through the buildings. That makes people nervous. You must just always walk around being a smiling face, promoting your school district. And I left that weekend, guys, knowing I was not going to be a good school board member. Ask my husband. I do not follow direction very well at all. And I will argue people to the point that I want to get them to. So I knew that wasn't going to work for me, and I thought it's unfortunate that a lot of people in the audience of that weekend probably were going to be a good school board member, and that's unfortunate. So we have formed, we meaning myself and school board members from across the state, have formed an organization, and I put the flyer in front of you, OSBLC. So instead of choosing OSBA to be their coach, we want to be their coach. And we're going to coach them to do something very different, which is simply help the district identify any deficiencies, identify where you're doing things right, identify what the community, your employer, is telling you to do. See, school board members get indoctrinated. They get told, pretty much, that their job is to support, protect, and promote district employees. Is that why you think you hired them? No. I think you hired them so that they could represent you. Because that's the check and balance to this whole system, is that employees have representation, taxpayers do not. So the board members are elected to represent the taxpayers. They forget that because they're being told by all these sources that their job is to be a cheerleader for the district. But we need to train them that that isn't their job. They have to identify the problems. So for all these years, the problems I'm going to show you have been absolutely ignored. Why? I'll get to it. Next slide. Oh, I can do that, can't I? You gave me this. Doohickey.
Point there.
Doohickey, real scientific. I actually did. Okay, so I'm encouraging citizens and people who please consider running for school board and those school board members to do several things, which is mostly to ask a lot of questions. You need to start asking, how do we know what we're doing is the right thing? Where's the data? Where's the evidence? Do we just say it? Or can we prove it? And that's my problem. I'm a scientist. And I want to say every time they say something, okay, prove it. That's great. That sounds great. Prove it. Great. Prove it. That doesn't go over well.
No.
But oh well. Okay, how do we know we have the best of the best? Because we're often told that we need to pass this levy so that we can maintain our best of the best. Right? Best teachers, best bus drivers, best ever. And I don't argue that we very possibly could have the best of the best, but I've never heard a district say they have the worst of the worst. So I'm pretty sure we're all saying we have the best of the best. Now how's that possible? Everybody's above average kind of thing. But I also want to teach people to ask, how do you know that? We have never measured teaching effectiveness. So how would we know we have the best of the best, right? Let's start measuring it and then we'll know. I probably do have the best of the best in my district. I think I do. How do we know what we're doing is for the kids? Keep asking that question. How do we know that? It's for the kids. Well, how do you explain that? How is tenure for the kids? How is pickup for the kids? I could keep going, guys. Okay, how do we know we're spending what we should? What are we missing? And let's start with our global picture. I'm not used to having this, it's great. So you look at PISA, the Program for International Student Assessments, and there was one done in 2009. These are the results of us globally. 2012, they did another PISA study. It will be published in December of 2013. But since there's been no national or statewide initiatives to change how our students do academically, I believe the 13 data will look just like the 9 data. I'm still using the 9 data. But this shows us pretty far down the scale on our success academically. Okay, but here are some more results in detail. In 2009, the PISA scores were based on 60 other countries, and only 33 of them were industrialized. In science, 22 other countries did better than the U.S. In math, 31 other countries did better than the U.S. And in reading, 14 other countries did better than the U.S. This is so bad. Okay, then there was another test called the TIMSS test. That's another global measure of our teaching effectiveness or academic progress. This is Dr. Pascal Forgione. He's the Commissioner of Educational Statistics. These are his words, not Kelly Kohls, so I'm just repeating. I like to steal other people's words if they sound better than mine, and they often do. But he's saying that the results of the TIMSS study involving 500,000 students in 41 countries was very authoritative. He said by the time our students are ready to leave high school, ready to enter higher education in the labor force, they are doing so badly with science, they are significantly weaker than their peers in other countries. Our idea of advanced is clearly below international standards. He said there appears to be a consistent weakness in our teaching performance in physical sciences that become magnified over time. He also says that the results in short of the TIMSS test show that U.S. fourth graders were performing poorly, middle school students worse, and high school students are unable to compete. By the same criteria used to say that we are average in elementary school, we appear to be near the bottom at the high school level. People have the tendency to think that that's all those other schools. That's not ours, right? Everybody else is doing poorly, ours excels. But the chances are that even if your school performs well on the SATs, which is the upper level standardized test, it will be a lightweight on the international scale. Other countries do better. That was the topic of an article, and I've got the reference there. But for years, the U.S. lagged behind other countries in math and science. The 2009 study showed that American students ranked 25th among 34 countries, behind nations like China, Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Finland. Why? Why are we doing so poorly globally? Is it money? Okay. This is shown, this is a 2009 report, but shows that we were second only to Switzerland at that time in the amount of money per pupil that we spend on education. Today, we lead the globe. Not the money. Here, this is showing our spending since 1970 up to 2012. That's why that's dotted. It goes all the way up to 12. That's our spending, the blue line. Down here are the reading, math, and science scores over that same time. Here, this is our spending in the yellow over time, and here's our upper level or SAT scores over time. Is it class size? Are we just packing too many students in a classroom? Over time, since 1990, this shows that we've actually lowered class size significantly. Here, many Asian countries score higher than we do on these global exams. They score higher than we do in math and science, but places like Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan have class sizes of 30 to 38, whereas in the U.S. our class sizes are 23 to 28. Again, that's not it. Here's Ohio, so I'm bringing it to Ohio. Here's our per pupil spending. This came from a report on ODE, Ohio Department of Ed, which I love that website. I go there often. I navigate it quite a bit. But again, showing over time our 8th grade math and our 8th grade reading results. We're putting the money in it, but we're not seeing any changes. Okay, this is from a report, and I put highlights from it in front of everybody. It's called Grading on a Curve. So I just pulled pieces of that, reprinted it, and put it in front of you because I think it's a magnificent report. I've got the whole thing if you want it. Just please write to me or write to George, and I'll send it to you. So this is just pieces. It's not that one, George. But anyway, this shows the number of school districts in Ohio over time who have become excellent or excellent with distinction. You see that's increasing. This is the amount of money we're putting towards gifted services. So here's where I tell you how disappointing it was for me to watch Mr. Romney. In my Tea Party, we've got 1,200 members. We stuffed 10,000 voter bags and got them out to households. 70% of Warren County voted for Mr. Romney. So we worked hard for him. I'm a supporter of somewhat his philosophy. One of the things he said that knocked me off my feet was he said that we had to hire people from other countries because we didn't have the expertise in our own country. The neuroscientists, the cardiovascular scientists, the people who do that kind of work. Why? Because we're not putting any resources to those types of students who would gravitate to those careers. We're leaving them in the middle. And it shows that from our global successes or failures. We're not putting any resources to those kids. And I'm not sure we're doing enough for all the kids, but I'll get to that. This just shows Ohio, and we are gray, which gray means that we're average state nationally. Now, most improved, Dayton Daily tableau. Again, you won't hear me say this word. Dayton Daily had an article where they boasted about how well Ohio has done and how it's the most improved state. But if you look further into the article, you see that according to the National Quality Count scores, Ohio teachers earned a C+ for 2011 biennial report, but the state had received a D+ 2 years before that, making us the most improved state. The Quality Count Index, previously reported by the Dayton Daily, put Ohio at 10th in the nation with an overall average grade of a C+. The nation as a whole received a C from this organization. The second performance study was conducted by the American Legislative Exchange Council. It was released last year and has Ohio come in at 21st in our K-12 performance. Ohio's education is really number 5 because, again, another article said that we're number 5. Well, let's look at more of the metrics. When the metrics are examined more closely, a less than top 10 performance emerges. Ohio ranking on percent of schools where 8th graders taking algebra is the norm. Ohio ranks number 28. When we look at Ohio's ranking in the number of students with a high AP score, that's an advanced placement test that they take in high school after they've taken an AP course. What they're trying to do is test out of a course in college. Okay? So we want those scores to be high. But nationally, we ranked 27 with our scores. The percent of students achieving advanced on the 8th grade national exam, math exam, Ohio ranked number 33. Ohio's education is geared towards proficiency, and I'm going to describe what that is. Until we go beyond the mindset that proficiency is excellent, we will never become a big player in this nation in education. This came from a presentation, and again, I steal other people's work whenever possible, but I'm going to give credit to everybody. This is Tom Dunlop's slide. Tom, if you watch this video, thanks. He did give me permission to reprint, but Tom Gundlach is the vice president of the Ohio School Board, and he came to our district. He was invited by one of us. He was invited to come and tell us what this new A through F grading system is. And when he presented, he said, Springboro, you're doing great, just like he would with Upper Arlington. He would say, you're doing great on all these things. Okay? But because the successes that he had just mentioned are based on minimums, and what do you mean by minimums? He says the successes are based on a system that was designed in the 1980s to measure whether our students had an 8th, 9th, and 10th grade ability in basic subjects in order to graduate. He said they're not the skill sets that prepare a student to be accepted into college without the need to take remedial coursework, nor are they the skill sets required or needed for our students to get jobs immediately after graduating high school. College and career ready, what does that mean? I mean, that is a topic of discussion in both districts. What does that mean? Are we really preparing them? But I looked it up for Arlington, and just in the last year that they recorded, which is 2011 data, the Ohio Board of Regents accumulates all the data. So you can go to their website, and you can find high schools, and you can look back how many years you want to. High schools and how they do, how their graduates do getting into college. 22% of Upper Arlington students that graduate and want to stay in-state to college have to take either a English or math course to get into college. So they don't meet the minimum competencies to get into an Ohio school. 22%. The state average is 41%. Now, when I came to Springboro and I was on the board, I looked this stuff up and I brought it to a school board meeting, which was not popular because remember, we're not supposed to air dirty laundry. But I said at a board meeting, you know, I'm concerned. Is anybody else concerned? Because our rate was 23% at that time. said, I'm concerned about that. That means that 1 in 4 of our graduates can't get into college without taking a catch-up course. For a district like ours, which, by the way, is a similar district to Upper Arlington demographically, I'm concerned about that. And so what I got was a teacher afterwards came up and said, well, Dr. Kohls, the state average is 41, so we're doing a lot better than the state average. I said, well, I don't take comfort in knowing other schools do worse. And, he said, Dr. Kohls, did you know that some of these students probably shouldn't go to college? Again, he said, well, gee, if even one of our students wants to go to college and can't meet the minimum competency requirements, I think we have a problem. So today, guess what our percent is? It's 14. We've decreased it almost 10% in a year, guys. And how do you do that? Because a board member simply asks the question. And sometimes you have to take it public so that somebody will listen. And that's the state we were in. Had I said it by myself, I was this radical, conservative nutcase that nobody wanted to listen to. But if I brought it up in public, then it became everybody's drama, and somebody paid attention to it. But now, hey, we spank up Arlington. I think somebody needs to make this number public, and maybe that it will be addressed. It isn't about more money. I say this all the time. It's about accountability. It doesn't take more money. It takes accountability. Please, people, start using my narrative if you want. Steal mine. Steal mine. Take it to your board. Guys, run for school board. I will help you. But what do we mean by proficiency? I said I would get back to that. Remember that we have all those districts now that are excellent with distinction, more and more all the time. How are we doing that? Well, here's the scale. So there are 26 education indicators, and you get graded on those. 75% of your students need to be termed proficient to get one of those 26 indicators. So they look at the standardized test for all these grades. Standardized test in reading for 3rd grade. To be proficient, a student only has to pass or answer correctly 57% of the questions. And they are called proficient. Now in math, 3rd grade math, they only have to answer 58% of the questions correctly to be proficient. Well, let's keep going, guys. It gets worse. 6th grade math, they only need to pass 40% of the questions correctly to be proficient. Should we keep going? 7th grade math, they only have to answer correctly 32%. I don't know about you, but if my kids came home with a 32%, even as far as a 70%, I'm saying you failed. You're grounded. Give me your phone. It's usually the process. Give me your Xbox. It all goes away until you get the grades up. So I don't think we would accept that at home, would we? As proficient, because proficient means you're doing okay. In my head, that's how it translates. Is that okay? Well, then we go to the upper level, which is OGT. That's the 10th grade standardized test. And we look at what proficient means there. So 10th grade reading, you only have to answer 43% of the questions correct, and you're proficient. And 43% of math questions correct, and you're proficient. So it's still a D and an F for the most part, and we're calling that okay. So you understand the bar is extremely low? And look, 75% of your students need to get that. Not all of them, 75%. The A through F grading system that we just put into Ohio law, which we're cheering about, honestly, school board, I'm not bad mouthing you, their Ohio school board, I'm celebrating some of the things they got done. Even so, to do that A through F grading system, they didn't change these cut scores at all. I think we have to keep pressuring them to up these things. Don't accept an F as proficient. I don't even think we should accept a D as proficient. But they're not changing that. What they're changing is, to make the A through F, is making 80% of your students have to get those proficient. That's all. So I'm saying they've eked the bar a little bit. Actually, I always refer to the bar as on the ground, and we've run over it 12 times. Maybe we've stopped running over it, but it's still on the ground. Yeah. So here's a number of school districts in Ohio that got excellent or excellent with distinction in 2002, 2003. Here's a number of school districts that now get that. But you know how that's been achieved? They just kept lowering that cut score. So more schools met the criteria to get excellent with distinction. So that whole grade doesn't mean much. Well, now they're changing over to this A through F system. I'm going to show you that in a second. But this is, again, Tom Gundlach. I thank him because he shared all this with me. But he said, in Ohio, we believe that 42.8% of our fourth grade reading students are advanced. If we were to take that same scale and put it on the national scale, really, truthfully, only 9% of our students are advanced. So it's the state of Ohio that has an inflated sense of how well we're doing. And we've kind of covered up the failings. It's not just Ohio, though. It's many other states, and I'll get back to that, because that's why we're victimized by Common Core, because of this. And I'm thankful that our state level people are acknowledging this is horrible. In every conversation that I have with our legislators or the Ohio School Board, they finally are saying, not that they didn't before, but they're new to this game, they're saying, this is awful. This is a hoax. It's a cruel hoax we've been playing on families. It's cruel. And why? You ask Kelly Kohls, it's because we've been funneling the money somewhere else. Not towards children's needs. Not towards our deficiencies. We've not been addressing those. We've all been patting ourselves on the back in education that we're doing so fabulously. Aren't you appreciative of how well we're doing? We're excellent with distinction. You didn't know this, or you might have had something to argue about. Well, finally stuff is becoming public. By me. Yes. You're welcome.
You're so shy.
Trust me, I dart by the windows at my house.
Shall we go around and take down all those banners that are out on the lawns in front of the schools tonight?
Yeah. So, when students matter most, this was a presentation, it was a beautiful presentation that I got from the Ohio Department of Ed. So their words, Ohio Department of Ed's words, they said, look, the national exam scores are flat and have been flat for quite some time. ACT scores, flat, been flat for a long time. College remediation, up. And the state assessment of our performance is up. So we believe more of us are better. They're saying there's a mismatch. Okay, so here's this A through F. Here's right now how many districts are excellent and excellent distinction. Once they go to that 80% of your students need to meet proficient, only 22 will actually be an A. So it's progress, right? It is progress. And I'm grateful for the little steps we're making because one, they are acknowledging that we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And two, they're starting to address it. And they've done 4 great things. There's 2 we're arguing about, but there are 4 great things that the state has done. And that is the 3rd grade reading guarantee. When we were interviewing superintendents, by the way, Springboro's on their 3rd, and the Dayton Daily Tabloid keeps blaming me.
Can you imagine
I'm
that?
just asking questions, and I do it with a smile. How could that be a problem? Evidently it is for some superintendents. But the one we were interviewing, now we have a good outside the box thinker, and he's really, so don't try it. Don't even come after him. Leave him where he is. But I said to him during the interview, I said, our remedial rates are 23%. Do you have any way you would address that as a superintendent candidate? And he said, well, Dr. Kohls, that's happening at the lower levels. Because he was a principal in our district before, in the lower levels. He said, that problem is occurring at your lower levels. I was able to identify it years ago. And I said, I trust you. You've at least thought about where the problems might be. I trust that. Somebody's thinking about it. So we hired him and he's addressing it. But our state legislation has addressed it too. Our state legislators now have enacted this 3rd grade reading guarantee. 100% of your students must be able to read at a certain level or they will not progress to 4th grade. And that is a huge problem for your district. So they're having to put resources at that 2nd grade level and 3rd grade level. Because if they have to hold a student back in reading, but that student's okay in the other subjects, math and science, they go on to 4th and 5th grade in those subjects, but they have to stay in 3rd grade for reading. You see how logistically that becomes a nightmare?
Yeah.
Well, it promotes then everybody reads by 3rd grade. And they're going to make sure of it now. So that's very helpful. The A through F grading system, so that's 2 I mentioned. The HB or House Bill 165, which says now, it's law, you have to have a test in your district by July. It says that you must teach the original intent of the 6 founding father documents. I love it.
It's a shame we have to have a House bill.
It's a shame we have to have legislators tell us, but I'm telling you, tomorrow night in Springboro, and I'm the school board president, so I have to preside over this meeting. We have a very contentious meeting coming up because a couple of us dared to suggest that Constitution Day, that our teachers should use a couple different references for Constitution Day. And those references are directing people, our instructors, to the original intent of the documents. And we're getting pushback, enormous pushback from the teaching profession and community members saying that's not your business, that's not your expertise, who are you to tell us how to do our job? And we're saying, no, the state's telling us we have to do this. But even so, Kelly, Kohls, and Jim Regano were telling you this is necessary. Our whole state agrees that we've come far away from our founding father documents, far away from the original intent of our history. We have to get back to what these documents meant. Not a revised version of what they meant, but anyway, we're going to have a lot of people. So there's little evidence that class sizes and teacher-student ratios have any impact on education success, right? We have the resources, we have the money, we have the educated professionals. What are we doing wrong? Keep this in mind. That was rhetorical for now, but I'll get back to you. Somebody said, I got the answer. Well, I want to say that I am a teacher, and I'm likely to be protective of the profession. I know that they do their job. I know that they care about the kids. It's not them. It's a lot of other influences. But those people work hard. I have no doubt about it. So I don't want anybody to think the fault belongs on a person in a classroom. I'm a parent, and I'm telling you, a lot of this fault goes on the parents.
Yes.
You know, a big part of this formula is right here. I wasn't paying attention either. I thought I was doing the best thing. Now I lucked into 4 gifted students, and my son is a B student. Anyway, money management. When I talk about Upper Arlington, because I've shown you academically we have deficiencies, right? So let's just talk about Upper Arlington and what I was talking about before. Why? Where are we going wrong and why? You look at Upper Arlington, for example, you spend $15,157 per pupil. In Springboro, which is your similar district demographically, that's according to ODE, spends about half that. Okay? Academic results are the same. When I looked at the performance data, we both got 26 out of 26, we both got 107, we're both excellent with distinction. Remedial rates in Springboro, I mentioned, are about 8% lower than they are in Upper Arlington. So it doesn't seem to equate with success, academic success. UA increased per pupil expenditures from 08 to 12. I like to do several years because 1 year is not good enough. Let's average over years. But from 08 to 12, that 4-year time frame, your expenditures per pupil went up 9%. In Springboro, ours went down 1%. Just a little bit of difference in economics.
Oh, you're twisting the
What?
knife.
What do we use to compare? Unfortunately, in education, some systems compare themselves to other systems, right? And you can do that through a couple different mechanisms on the ODE website. One of them is called the CUP report. So if you go ODE, you Google that, come up with this beautiful homepage. Right at the top right-hand corner is a search bar. If you put in CUPP, click on that, and you can kind of navigate through a couple other frames, but you'll get to a report, which I've got a copy of. If anybody wants it, I'll share it. I've got a whole folder full of this information. It's easy to find, and I talk people through it every day. I'll say, sit down at your computer, and I'll talk you through it, and you'll know how to get the information yourself. And then you can use similar districts. So ODE compares Upper Arlington to 19 other districts that match them demographically. So that's what you get. And I've got that list there, but Springboro is one of your similar districts. But I caution everybody, let's stop comparing ourselves to other failing systems. Let's stop. We need a new model. That one's not working. Let's start again. I'm a school choice proponent. I believe that competition and free market will cure what is ailing education. It's real simple. We don't need common core. We need competition. This monopoly is not working for children. Okay, I'll keep going, sorry. Upper Arlington, 31% of your students are proficient or below. 1/3 of your students score proficient or below. Nobody talks about that. In districts, they'll always say proficient or above. Let's start talking about those students that get D and below. It sounds like that's 1 in 3 in Upper Arlington. Well, to be honest, in Springboro, it's 33. Yes, we are concerned. Yes, we are addressing it. Trust me. We're on that like white on milk. Because what's really nice is that even though I was by myself for 2 years, meaning I was the conservative among those who were not, and really just wanted to keep putting levies on the ballot, and I kept saying, no, we've not made the changes the community has asked us to make. We've failed 4 times. I think we should make the cuts that they're asking us to make. I think we should correct the things that they've identified to be problems. I don't think we should put a levy on the ballot, so I said no. But they voted 4 of them yes. The levy went on the ballot, and we failed by more than we had failed by before. So finally, I think people start saying, okay, what do you want, Kohls? Like, so I just said, well, let's listen to them. And I think what they're saying is there's a lack of parity here. That we've got a pay and benefit system that doesn't match economic reality for everybody else. I think they're saying that's objectionable. Now, sure, let's go ask. Maybe we need to do a survey, but I'm pretty sure that's why they elected me to come in here to tell you that. And I make a whole whopping $125 per meeting, twice a month, which means who the heck's going to do this? I mean, really, who's going to do the homework for that kind of money? You have to be, don't you? So, okay, that could be why I have no fear. But I always say that, and you get lots and lots of criticism. Who among us would sit up there by yourself and be horribly criticized nonstop? The union throws a ULP, an unfair labor practice, at me month 3. I had just gotten started. And it was nonsense, of course, because Kelly Kohls doesn't have a contract with the union. The Board of Education does. I knew it was nonsense, they knew it was nonsense, but it made front page news and it acted to try to intimidate me. I'm trying to coach school board members. If that ever happens to a school board member, just write to me, call me, I'll talk you through it. And I'll make you feel better immediately. But one person on the Ohio School Board, his name was Jeff Harden, and he just died. He was dying of heart failure this whole time. But he was the one that I contacted when I was in trouble. And he, just like a big brother, I've never met him, only on the phone. But he, just like a big brother, made calls to my district people. And they threatened to sue him. And he would share this with you. He told me to tell them that they should use the remote start on their car. That was my big shoulder. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be that person for other school board members. You're not going to be liked. The people in the audience are not you guys, usually. They're not going to be supportive of your message. I get scowled at, I get booed, I get all, see this? This is not fat. It's thick skin. Teflon, in fact. I think everything just bounces off. Trust me, my kids have called me almost everything. I'm sure under their breath, though, because trust me, that wouldn't go over. But anyway, Arlington, 31% of the students are proficient. AYP was met, so adequate yearly progress was met, passed 26 out of 26 indicators, rated excellent with distinctions, same as Springboro. Upper Arlington, enrollment went up 2.7%. You are a thriving community. And this is about my 40th presentation. I always bring it down to the district that I'm in, and you're one of the rarities. Springboro has grown also. Upper Arlington has, so we're doing well. We should be celebrating that. So 2.7%, which is a 0.7% per year. You're at 55, so are we. Right at the same number. Revenue went down 4.5% or 1% per year. So what I try to do is some appropriate questions financially. At least what I did was say, well, if our enrollment is only going up by this much, why is our projected expenses going up by this much? And there could be a good reason, but I just wanted the answers, that's all. Expenditures went up 9%. If your revenue is going down, if you're in private business, your revenue is going down, and you're projecting your expenses are going up, what would you do? Okay, it's not just me. All right, so 5-year forecast. You're projecting in your 5-year forecast increase in expenses by $1,265,000 per year on average. You're projecting a decrease in revenue, there we go again, of $185,000 per year. So revenue going down, expenses projecting going up, perfectly appropriate questions to ask your district. Why, what are we assuming is going to happen that hasn't happened? And that's where we found, we were projecting, guys, the 5 levies that failed, we were projecting a $30 million deficit in 5 years, $30 million deficit. Guess where we are today? And by the way, we put back all the things we took from the children while we were going for those levies, because I said, I think our decision making is faulty, that we're giving pickup, we're giving administrators this bonus, yet we stopped busing our high school students, so we can't safely transport our children to school, but we can continue this bonus package. I don't think that's a children's first philosophy. I think we need to rethink things. So pickup is now gone, and busing is back in. So it worked out, because I was able to communicate with the community that this was kind of a backwards way of thinking about how to spend our money, okay? And it worked out. So anyway, we added back, we have a $10 million, we had a $10 million, now we've started to use, we're gonna start working on some buildings. So we said we have a $10 million surplus without new money. Can it be done? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stop projecting you're gonna spend money just to make your bottom line look bad. That's just a passive levy. Trust me. You spend twice what we do. Anyway, I don't want to go there. I don't want to tell anybody how to vote. I'm not here to do that, but I have to say, Upper Arlington is the poster child for taxpayer abuse. I have not seen any district spend money like this.
I want this book.
In all my presentations across the state, I've never seen this kind of spend. Okay? And I've got some more of that. I just never had. Egregious wastes. Projecting your deficit spending over $7.75 million per year for the next 5 years. That's what you're projecting. Okay? System failure in fiscal response. If you see revenue coming down, you better adjust. I mean, and maybe in Upper Arlington you've never had to because your taxpayers bailed you out. But I think that your district needs to understand, and maybe you can help them understand, there's a different economic reality today. One we live by, one they live by. And maybe we need a meeting of minds. We look at, why did that do that? Gosh, it's so frustrating. My computer does that sometimes, it doesn't. But UA household income versus district employees. So households are the bottom, and you look at it over time. So I like to go back, these 4 or 5 years. So 2008 to 2012, your household income, okay? And then we look at UA teachers, which is the top line, and the change in income, and then staff. Staff is from custodian to superintendent. Changes. I like to look at, I don't really pay attention to what somebody's salary is necessarily, because they negotiated that, they got that, that's before me, not my business. My business is more now, trying to talk about what do we do in the future? Why do we project increases that the community's not seeing? So I like to look at what the income change has been in these years. So you look back 2009, 10, 11, 12. So 2009, households, which is the dark blue first line, made this much more than they had the year before. And then teacher, staff. I think that looks like a very reasonable chart there, depending on the makeup of your community. And did you know 71% of this community, Upper Arlington community, have higher ed degrees? That's more as a percent than inside your district. Anyway. Then the next year, here's the economic reality that the households saw. They lost income significantly. But here's what happened to district incomes. That's the change. Then we go to this year, maybe there was some kind of close, but there had to have been a buyout for that to happen even, where you kind of entice people to retire. You get the people at the upper end to go ahead and go, and you hire at the lower end, and you adjust the whole average. Not that anybody did with less income, we know that. And then this is this last year. This last year, you had a good year as Upper Arlington goes, your households. But here's what I noticed, and I have a whole chart of this, that your average administrative salary went up $13,000. Superintendent salary went up $22,000. Associate superintendent went up $16,000. Principals went up $17,000. Assistant principal went up $15,000. Treasurer went up $3,500. I don't know if you got a new one. Sometimes that happens. Average teacher salary went up $10,000. while UA households went up 2,600. That's in that 4-year span.
Something's wrong.
Academic and fiscal failures. Why doesn't the system have corrections? Why isn't anybody paying attention to economic realities? They don't have to if you mail them out. Okay, can I say that? Why doesn't the system use data to drive their actions? Because don't you think there's been a lot of this? Yeah, we're not watching, so it's not real if I'm not watching. Where are our elected officials? Your school board members should be doing this homework. It's a little frustrating to me that they don't, but maybe they don't want to know because it's a lot of work to go find the data. It's a lot of work to sit in front of your fellow board members and say, do you not see this? Because our school board members have started to do it because my community hired 2 more of me. I went from being very, very lonely to yes. And immediately I became a school board president because one of the guys who was not like-minded said, I quit. I can't handle you guys. I quit. It was great. I'm vice president. I'll be right over here. I have no problem with that. So I will be president for 1.5 years. Who'd have thunk it? Because a couple of years ago, I was over there all by myself at the end of the table saying things nobody wanted to hear. Oh well.
Did they talk to you at all?
Actually, they did. It took a while. I got yelled at and I got cursed at and I got lots of things. And I just still sat there and said, well, I'm just trying to make my point. Here's the data. You guys can leave this meeting, because they did storm down a couple times. I'm an adult. I'm still here. So it was I was friendly. So I think eventually they got, okay, she's not so bad. Not the Wicked Witch of the West. Maybe we have to listen. And it turned out fine, because it ends up that I get along with them. But they thought that I was coming in to bring necks or something, and I wasn't. I just wanted to share what I knew and the homework that I like to do, and I started sharing it. It worked out well because the community said, you know what, she's not a whack job, we're going to listen to her, she makes sense, let's get her some help. And now there are 4 of us total. But anyway, I have to ask your elected school board members, do you ever want, is this dereliction of duties? Is it dereliction? But then I'm on their defense sometimes saying, guys, it's $125. The whole system is not even set up to have a check and balance to it. It's set up to have them walk into a meeting and say yes to everything on the agenda.
Yes.
And they're coached to just say yes to everything on the agenda. They're coached to be a cheerleader for their district. Okay, well, lots of people will do that for $125. So the system it's just a hoax. The whole system, and you saying, you guys go to the ballot box and you vote that person in. Really? I mean, how likely is it that they're going to do anything different? It's too much work. And that kind of money doesn't get anybody to do the work. So I'm not complaining. I actually thought I got no pay. I only learned a month before I got elected that there was $125. So I'm not complaining. I thought it was totally free. But it is a boatload of work if you really want to change what's going on. And I think it's almost too much. But if we had school choice, it would correct a lot of this all by itself. And we wouldn't have this cruel hoax on parents and taxpayers. The system would correct itself. Because school district over here wants that student. It's going to provide an inexpensive way to make that student better. And if it doesn't, then it's going to lose that student it just stole from you, and that student's going to go over here. Parents would have to get involved because they have to make a decision where to send their student, right? The whole system would correct itself. I'm a school choice advocate, and so is my organization. Okay? Board is at the top of the organizational chart, and it might sound cocky, but I thought early on, there's confusion. In most school districts, I think there's confusion. The superintendent believes, and many people in the area believe, that they are at the top, and that the board just does what they're told. And most boards do it that way. Okay? So we printed and published on our website our organizational chart that has the Board of Education at the top, because I wanted there to be clarity. Okay, we still have our struggles, trust me. But I'll say, no, I'm an elected official. Nope, I'm an elected official. Nope, I'm an elected official. I keep saying that. I don't do what you say. Sorry. I don't know if we've met yet, but I'm Kelly Kohls, and you're the superintendent, and I don't follow direction. But anyway, the board needs to understand that. And it's up to me and my organization to help boards understand that. You're at the top, guys.
responsible and you're held responsible for everything. So if the curriculum, and you decide that, is bad, and your school board isn't correcting it, and you've told them, guys, this history book is revised. It's not a true history book. If you start saying that to them, and they don't change it, get them out of office. Hold them responsible. If fiscally they're out of line, hold them responsible, and I think you guys are doing that. I'm so proud of you. Anyway, OSPA is that organization. I would encourage you to encourage your school board members to think through that. We ended our membership in OSPA 2 years ago. We believed that that $5,500 could be better spent on a textbook for a whole grade level. We didn't need their coaching. We didn't care for their coaching, and they lobby our legislators against taxpayers. If you go look at their legislative outlook, it's very different than what you would go for. Trust me. So we have a legislative platform on OSBLC, and it's taxpayer-minded legislation that we want to see happen. That's the opposite of OSPA. So we really are like the 60 plus in AARP.
How much is it?
That's what we're doing. We're the opposite.
How much is it for school?
By the way, it's $40. Every citizen, please go on and join, because that's how I get the money to do these reprints for you guys. The rest of it comes out of the Kohls budget. It's really tough, but I can at least use your $40 to get reprints, and then I take it and inform other people. $40 for a citizen for a year. School board members is $200, because we have this whole network thing working out. They can call me anytime, and any of the other board members. We are school board members from across the state here to coach them. And so we hold a lot of conferences. June 22nd will be a school board candidate program, and it's right here at Lewis Center. If you go on our website, osblc.com, you'll see events. Click on that. June 22nd is our next one. We're going to start training school board members early on. And then August 24th, we're going to work with you even more. We have a November conference. It'll be our second. I'm trying hard to get Rand Paul. Rand Paul, please. Please answer my emails. I'm here. I exist. I'm a pig in the hiney. Trust me. I'll keep on it. But anyway, I'd love to have some really cool speakers. Rand Paul believes in school choice as well. And I would love to see somebody like that keep going with his efforts. But anyway, OSBA offers lots of different ways to coach your school board members to be good school board members. I hope nobody falls for that. Legal counsel is a great influence on your school boards, because as a school board, we would ask legal counsel questions often. He or she would come back and say, well, no, you can't do that. There's an ORC code, Ohio Revised Code, you can't do that. For example, we said, took me a year, but the school board, not like-minded school board, agreed with me that pickup, where we pay the administrator's portion of their retirement, which they're supposed to pay out of their paycheck, but we were doing it for them, that was about a $200,000 bonus, in my opinion. And I convinced the other school board members, okay, it might be a bonus. Ask legal counsel, can we do away with it? Her response was, well, no. ORC code 3313 or 3302.4, whatever it was, says that you may not reduce an administrative compensation package. So the school board member said, oh, okay, well, never mind. I said, wait a minute. This was where I was a pain in the hiney for them. But I said, wait a minute, when a contract comes to an end, you can non-renew that contract. I mean, maybe I don't know contracts, but you can non-renew that contract, and you can offer them one without it, right? And she said, well, yeah, you can do that. Darn it. So we had to ask it the right way. We had to ask the question, and it shouldn't be that way. Your legal counsel should understand that you work for the taxpayer, and the taxpayer is trying to, and the boards are trying to be fiscally responsible. So the first answer out of their mouth being, nope, can't do that, I went, wrong answer. We need new legal counsel. Because that will love that. You know? So we have new legal counsel now. But it took it and the guys on the board, so we had majority, because I couldn't make some of those changes until we got more majority. So we have new legal counsel. He completely understands what his job is, and that's to work for the Board of Education, not to protect employees. They have protection, I keep saying. They have representation, they have protection. Our job is different. So anyway, new legal counsel. We're on our third superintendent, by the way. We're on
And how many years?
our third, well, this is my fourth year. We are on our third treasurer. And again, I get blamed. And the article said, from the other board members, that I was overbearing and I was micromanaging. And I said, but they didn't quote me. I said, but I did it with a smile. They didn't quote that. I think I was nice. But I don't micromanage. I simply wanted to ask questions. I simply wanted answers. That's what board members should be doing. And if that rattles somebody's cage, then they do need to try another district, I think. Our district wants some answers. But anyway, ODE is a great source of information and a great influence to board members, so I would suggest that. Superintendent and Treasurer are influencers to your board members. They should be answering questions. We found sometimes with these people, which are the board's employees, that if we really had to take 4 months to get an answer, which I did on one occasion, maybe they weren't on our side. Or if they answered with a partial answer and you knew the rest of the story, you do your homework in advance, of course, before you ask the question, just to see if they answer you. And when they answer you with a partial, you know you got the wrong person. You know, so we had the wrong person a couple times, that's all. So the union also influences your board members. How? By threatening an unfair labor practice. That's an intimidating process that I'd like to talk board members through so that they're not so intimidated by that. We are currently in negotiations, so I have to be careful with what I say because we'll get a ULP. Because I'm board president, I am the body. So if I say something, they might say, oh, well, that's an unfair labor practice because you said something out loud in public. Well, the law says that that negotiations have to happen behind closed doors in private, right? That's the law. That's why you as the taxpayers don't hear anything. But the law doesn't say that the offers are private. So we asked legal counsel, the one that knows he works for us, we asked legal counsel, are those offers private? Can we publish them? So he went and did his homework, he came back and he said, well, I have a case file that says, or a case report that says they're a public document. We said, okay, we put it on our website. Put them both on our website. So of course we have that ULP going. And then we have another one. But what does it mean to have an unfair labor practice lodged against you? Not much. But in negotiations, here's what happened in Strongsville and I think in Brecksville. During their negotiations, which get contentious, Brecksville had 6 ULPs lodged against them, and they had 4 ULPs lodged against the union during their negotiations. Now, once they reached an agreement, they all disappeared. So is it really, something to worry about? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you feel you're doing the right thing, you want to be fair. But what is the punishment if a district is found to have an unfair labor practice? So the SERB, State Employees Relation Board, says, you, school board, violated the negotiated agreement by doing such and such. Okay, you're guilty. What does that mean? There's no monetary damages. There's only what it took maybe to defend you, but that shouldn't be a whole lot. Because if you're found guilty, what you've got to do is put one of these 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper in each building that says, I was found guilty of an unfair labor practice. You put that in your building for 30 days. That's a punishment. So I kid around and say, why don't we just plaster it right on my shirt and I'll just wear it because I'm pretty sure or just tattoo it on my forehead. I'm pretty sure I'm going to violate at some point because I think that I believe, and I'm not sure about the rest of my board, I can't speak for them, but that the taxpayers deserve to know. Everything that we know, you should know because we represent you. So I'm not likely to hold a lot of things close to my vest. I want you to understand, and the taxpayers that voted me in, to understand what's going on. And if our offer was unfair, I'm quite sure they'll tell us, and some have. I disagree, but that's for the taxpayers to help us decide. So we published, anyway, it's on our website. Go see Springboro.org. I say, tell your school board members to get new coaches. They might choose us. We want to share the tools to make the children the focus of education spending. We need an understanding that there's a business and a bottom line to education. We know we need new coaches because we have 1,000 applicants for one teaching position at Springboro. I bet you get that here. I bet up at Arlington you get hundreds of applicants for every single position. So what does that tell you if you're using free market principles? Do you have to pay and benefit the way you are?
No.
Not up to me, it's up to Upper Arlington to decide, but I would ask how many applicants do we get per position? Now, I know at your high school, because it happens at our high school, Your high school science teacher, you get very few of those applicants. So that's one of those we might have to pay and benefit more than we do. So it totally, if you're using free market principles, then that dictates what you pay and benefit. And it might depend on the number of applicants you have, right? If they're harder to get, our bus drivers are hard to get. Well, then that tells me we're going to up our price. We should. That makes sense. And I think the taxpayers are willing to get us some good bus drivers and backup bus drivers. And we're not stingy, are we, taxpayers? We just want what's fair. And free market principles are applied to the public sector, the private sector, so why not the other? So pay a benefit. I just wanted to do this math, because everybody asks me, well, what about hourly? Because a household works all year. And so everybody tries to calculate the hourly wage so that you can compare apples to apples. So I did some of that. Consider education level works, hours worked, and days off. But the private sector households, I'm assuming 1.5 workers. I'm assuming that half of the Upper Arlington households have 2 workers and half of them have 1 worker. I may be off, but that was the adjustment I made. And working 249 days, which means they have 4 weeks off. And working 8 hours a day. And my husband works far more than that, but I'm just giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. Okay, which is 2,988 hours per year. Then we look at a district worker whose contract is usually 185, but I put in a couple more in there because I know there's, extra hours they put in. 15 sick days, so I subtracted that. 8 hours per day, that's 1,376 hours a year. So your community, Upper Arlington, makes $59,000 a year. 59.1 per household. Now, I divide that by this total number of hours, and I get $20 per hour. That's the average household member's pay per hour. Now we look at your district. The average salary from custodian to superintendent is $66,000. So I'm subtracting $6,600. I subtracted 10% because this is the contract price, not the federally adjusted number. This is federally adjusted, this was not, so I went ahead and subtracted for a federal adjustment, just to try to be fair. I'm trying to be completely fair, and I adjusted that income federally. Now I divide it by 1376. I believe I'm apples to apples now. And I get $43 per hour. So now you look at degrees. This says Worcester, it wouldn't correct it for me when I came here to do this, but yours is 71%, I said it before. Upper Arlington's population, 71% of Upper Arlington's population has higher ed degrees. Within your district, it's typically 60% that have higher ed degrees. So we're being as fair as we can here. We're looking at twice the hourly wage. Those kinds of calculations, I think school board members should be doing. We look at benefits now. This is a Kaiser Family Foundation, and in 2010, and their 11 data says 28%, but they compare the national data for healthcare cost splits. So what they were asking here, or they presented here, was that if you combine the private sector and the public sector, and the amount the employee pays in a percent, the average across this nation is 30%. It's now 28%. So you typically pay 28% of your healthcare costs. Your employer pays the other. But we know that in the public sector, they're paying more like 10%, and the private sector is more like 50%. So they average at 28. But I would say that if that's the case, then I think we can make a pretty good argument within every district to say, you're at 10%, if we really want to talk about parity with the community, we'll start eking that down. So that, sorry, you have to pay a larger percent of your healthcare costs, but guess what, so does your community members. So we can't always protect everybody from the economic reality that the rest of us face. We might have to have these strong, serious conversations, and I think everybody should appreciate and respect that. But this is part of that picture. Also, if you look at the number of people who get health care cost coverage in retirement, the private employers only cover about 18% of their employees in retirement for their health care costs. Nonprofit employers only cover about 23% of their retirees' health care costs. All employers combined is 25%. This is the public sector, and how many of that population we cover their health care costs in retirement. Again, we're looking at consistent disparities. And I think as community members, we have the right to say, okay, let's try to fix this, because it's creating this enormous divide between the public and private sectors. We don't need to have that if we move somewhere together. If I get a raise in the private sector, you get a raise in the public sector. But to have this raises in the public sector, losing income in the private, it creates this animosity towards each other that I don't think any of us want. Maybe some don't care, but that's how it is. I can get to this another day because I don't want to bore everybody. And there's another speaker who will come in. Schools need to be educating both the district employees and the communities. I feel like that's my job. Even though my messages come up across people who don't want to hear it about the disparity, I don't think they want to hear it, but a lot of our staff and faculty do. And they say, okay, now I understand. How can we fix that? It happens. We help by becoming a board member. If anybody in here is interested, please let me know. I will help you. Help those that run. So if George decided to run, please get on his campaign committee. Please go door to door for him and get him on the school board. Help by asking questions. You guys are doing a fabulous job. They need more people in the audience to go to these school board members at meetings and start asking these questions. And help by expressing yourself to the newspapers, which I think you guys are doing a lot of that too. Help out, guys. We're not going to change education by sitting still and letting it happen in front of us. We saw that, right? We've seen that. We have to get involved. Summary of this talk. We have falsely and significantly inflated our education egos while ignoring significant deficiencies we have in our education system. The public has largely been kept from the facts through manipulation and misrepresentation of the information released by the public education systems. Unfortunately, all the money and misinformation has led to reduced academic outcomes. It appears that for the kids was part of this manipulation. Sounds harsh, I know. Some people claim that my talks are negative. My talks are real. And some might perceive it as negative. I'm just trying to say, Houston, we have a problem. Let's fix it for all of our kids and for us. For the last 20 years, we have let our students down. Our system has become an adults first system. We need to get back to where the children are our priority in education, and I don't think anybody should disagree with that. They might disagree with how we do it, and that's okay. Then you need to elect people to do it differently. Influencers to the decision makers, which is the influencers to your board members in education, seem to have convinced your board members that their job is to protect employees first and educate second. Become an informed consumer. Do the homework yourself. Elect board members that will not be swayed by the influencers. Board members must remember that they are the boss, and excellence in education is the product. And it's hard to do. I have to tell you, I'm as strong as they come, but it's hard when your audience hates you. And you walk into these school buildings and you get this aura of, wow, they really don't like me. Eventually, though, I think what they'll become to understand is that we're trying to be fair and we're trying to advocate for fairness, and that overall we can improve the reputation of the district if we get fairness back in education. If we make the children the priority of all of our efforts and not the money funnel that has been happening. Let's address our deficiencies and stop funneling the money over here and start giving the money towards what we need to do to get them educated. That's all I'm saying, and that shouldn't be that objectionable, right? Is it time?
Yeah, we'll take some questions. You have time for a few questions?
Absolutely.
All right. If there's some questions, please raise them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you see as a first step when you feel, like I feel overwhelmed? Just for example, on my little street where I live, there's at least 7 or 8 school district employees on my street, and they're all against these ideas, and they all try to avoid talking to me because some of them know I'm against the way things are. They try to avoid it and just talk about the kids and stuff and not deal in conflict or controversy. what do you see as a first step to opening a dialogue with people who are basically intelligent and educated and they want to good for their kids too,
Right.
but they think it's okay to keep funneling all this money through the unions and everything?
One of the things, guys, this PowerPoint is for anybody that wants it. And you might just take it. I send it to George.
I got a copy.
He's got a copy. Anybody can have it. You might just pull out a slide or two once in a while and soundbite them into understanding. That's what I've had to do, because even my good friends just really, it overwhelms them to think that they have to get now involved. Because they're busy, like I was. You know?
They
So
think everything's
they think everything's great. Please don't confuse me with the facts. So you might have to just give them little pieces and say, we have a problem, help me fix it. I'm willing to stand up and be the one. And I just had a problem with a friend the other day because this whole Ohioans Against Common Core is an entity that is a great source of information. And I said that OSBLC would not sponsor one of their events because my organization is all about trying to present both sides of issues. And I don't want to sponsor one negative orientation. I want to present, like I did here, there are solutions. And I think Common Core is not it. And I'm trying to convince the Ohio School Board about that, but I think school choice is it. So I'm trying to give you guys, please, competition will cure all of these problems. Can you see it? So you might have to soundbite them into it. But I said to this woman, I said, well, I think they've taken me off their email list for some reason. They're really angry that you won't do what they want you to do. And if you're an influential person, it's even more frustrating because they thought you were their answer to get publicity or whatever. And I said, but I can't do that. My reputation is at stake and I want to present both sides of Common Core. This is why they did it. This is why it doesn't work. I think that informs most people the best. So if you do that, I think it's the most helpful. I give up 4 nights this week. I'm out doing presentations. I had Booster on Monday night, and I had Hillsboro last night, and I'm here tonight. I give up all this time with my family because it's so important. So you know, I'm one of the most impassioned people about this subject, but I know I can't push that on other people because they will go, whoa, Kohls, you're way too committed to this. So if you soundbite them into it, it's much easier. That's my experience. So little pieces, just dribble them information.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion. Yeah, you had one question long time ago.
No, I apologize, Kelly, because you had asked a rhetorical question, and I was going to be somewhat satirical, for which I apologize. Because the question was, what's the problem? And what I hear is from so many educators, what they say, and I want your response on this, I don't know how to answer them back. But they say, the problem in the schools is there's so much divorce, and there's so many drug use and broken family, and it's like, I remember a basketball coach once was asked about his losing record. He said, well, we can't make chicken salad out of chicken blank. And he was fired the next day. And I just think that's an inappropriate attitude for any educator to take.
It's insulting that the kids don't have an IQ on their own.
Right.
That it's actually damaged by what happens at home. That's not true. But I do say that I wish our district would start this. Right now we have so many battles that I can hardly start the initiatives I'd really like to, which is to offer seminars on, and who knows if they would come, but on how to make your student the best student they can be. And I'll give you some personal stories, even though they might bore you, but this is why I work my fanny off, and I have to leave 2 of my high schoolers are still at home. And I have to leave them to go to these places and talk. And I'm willing to do it because they are that important to me. But when my twins left, they just graduated and went to college, but when they left to go take the ACT exam, all they needed at home was somebody to say, hey, do this, do that, do this. They really just needed a drill sergeant, in my opinion, because I work well with that one. I'm a drill sergeant. So I'm not sure that a happily married couple makes a difference. I think a drill sergeant makes a difference. Although we've been together 35 years, so I think they've got that piece of the formula too. But my twins came home and they were celebrating that they had gotten a 29 on their ACT. Top score is a 36. A 29 though, if you know anything about ACT, doesn't get them in the money. And so, I'm trying to say, hey, you need the money. I can't afford your education, sorry, your mom's unemployed. So, you know, they came home and they said, yeah, it's got a 29, got a 29. I said, that is not your score. That is not your score. And they said, I can't believe you're mad at us for 29s. Can't believe it. We're going to go tell our friends that you got mad at us for a 29. I said, I am mad at you because that's not your score. You got up at the last minute. You ran your fannies out of here, got in the car, you were late trying to pick up a friend, you didn't eat a good breakfast, you didn't have time to relax, you didn't follow the protocol for doing well on that exam. So good luck next time. Guess what? Their scores went up so much, they got free rides. They're at Ohio Northern and Pharmacy, they're pre-med at OU, and they're doing great. So I think what it takes is to empower the parents to hold your children to the bar. You know where your child can go, you take them there. And if you don't challenge them, forget it. Your kid's not going to do anything. You know, maybe that's what we do is empower the parents to say, you're in charge, alone or not, you're the boss, and you tell them that's an unacceptable grade, and they will lose all privileges, including athletics. I think we've been this false place where we put them in athletics, as many as we can keep them busy with. No, when they get home, have seats on, do your homework. There you go. Fun. But we've got to hold them and show them that the academics is more important than almost anything else. Because that's what these other countries are doing.
Right.
They're not making athletics the center of their day.
Right.
They're making academics.
Or TV.
Or TV.
Let's
Or that
take two more
stupid
questions.
computer. Sorry.
Maria Donald and then Dave.
I could talk for days, guys.
Maria,
Common
Maria and then Dave, and then we'll
Core
put the
is not
rest.
only the public school in Ohio, it's also coming to the Catholic schools.
It is.
Right.
It's in every school.
Homeschoolers, everything.
This CD or this segment that George had on, as you guys all were coming in, please take the time and watch it. It is extremely important that you watch the downsides of Common Core. He showed it while people were just coming in, so I don't know if you saw it.
Well, we can show it
But
next.
please,
Yeah.
please
We'll
watch
show it next
that.
time too.
Because
We'll
it
show
will tell you, and it's across the whole nation. And I'll go into it more at the next meeting.
Next
My
one,
Common Core
Dave.
is bad.
You know, living in an adjoining school district, they haven't mailed me the manual of school talk.
School speak, we call it.
They keep that away from me. But what should I ask my superintendent? What expectations should I have in his performance review when we convert to the A through F system? Because we're going to hear all the reasons and the excuses of why they dropped, and then you know what the next answer is going to be. If you just give us some more money, we can get back up on top like we were.
Then I say you show him the charts I sent him to say, no, you got that. You got that. You're spending twice what a comparable school is spending. Really? You guys should be refunding
To
that.
know that have kids from other countries, because we have a lot of them around. I mean, I don't live in up here Arlington anymore.
Yeah.
I in the Columbus school system, which is, oh dear God,
Yeah.
that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole other issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what can a school system do when you have kids, because Worthington has it, where you have kids from Somalia, Mexico, Honduras, you name it, and some of these kids don't speak English.
Right. That's an expensive student too.
Right,
So I'm
right.
saying that if you had school choice,
Well, and the principal at our school says hello to the parents in Spanish to be polite, but it's like, hey, you got to start speaking, working on your English more with your kids, up to par here.
Yeah, some of them.
I mean,
Well,
it's up
don't
to
even
her. I
know
know
what their
it's
parents
not.
are.
yeah. Right, and insisting, but I'm thinking that school choice again would correct that this school might be all about those ESL students, and this school will be about people who already speak English. And so if a teacher is slowed down, again, I don't blame the teacher. I don't blame that person in that
I don't
classroom.
either.
Because the problem is, we're teaching to this whole continuum, and they just can't possibly
Right.
teach to that whole. So I knew that my students were sitting in that classroom, and I was praying that they wouldn't be disruptive, because I knew they were getting bored. And I thought, I as a parent now have to supplement them, because they're not getting everything they need in the classroom. We're gonna have to change our family budget to get them music lessons, to get them Spanish lessons, or just keep them entertained, So anyway, I would suggest that school choice would be what we could use to help us with that. I don't have any solutions, because they are mandated by law to still teach those students, and that's an expensive student. I don't know what to do with that. So yeah, if Upper Arlington had a demographic like some of these other schools in Columbus, then that price tag might make sense.
Right.
Over 15,000 people. But with the demographic you have, it's your decision.
Dr. Cole, thank you. thank you very much for being with us tonight. Let's give her a